Hey, it's Phil Meyer. Let's talk about... hold up. I can't see anything with this thing. This is what I get for trying to look cool for the video. Alright, like I was saying, let's talk about Reaper on controller. Reaper's the second melee DPS job I'll be covering. All of my melee controller layouts focus on optimizing core global cooldown abilities on the face buttons, so I can better maintain character movement while working through my attack rotation. Like many of my other layouts, the approach I'm using for Reaper is to split its actions into 2 cross hotbar sets, composed of 4 hotbars. The first set is for single target attacks and the second is for area attacks. I swap between these sets by tapping the right shoulder button, which can be enabled in character configuration settings. If swapping hotbar sets is new to you, check out my general cross hotbars guide linked in the video description. Let's walk through the ability placements on the hotbars, then I'll give you a demo of the layout in action. All of my melee DPS layouts start with the same placement for common role actions, and I'll only move or replace those abilities if the job calls for it. True North, Bloodpath, and Leg Sweep take their spots in the base hotbar for easy access during Reaper's attack combos, though some of these get replaced in both hotbar sets. The left trigger's face buttons are where I've placed Reaper's most basic attacks. On the single target bar, these are Slice, Waxing Slice, and Infernal Slice. The reason I've put the basic attacks on this trigger is so I can place Hell's Ingress, Reaper's gap closer, on the right face button. This is the spot I always try to reserve for gap closers for muscle memory. Having Hell's Ingress on a face button lets me maintain control over movement until just before I use it. That's especially important here, since Hell's Ingress moves Reaper forward in the direction the character is facing rather than towards a target. Reaper's Gap Opener, Hell's Egress, is placed on the bottom D-pad button on this trigger. In my opinion, having Hell's Egress on a face button is less critical, since most of the time I'll be reaching for Hell's Ingress, and other actions take priority for those spots. When Reaper uses Hell's Ingress, or Egress, it temporarily enables the use of Harp, Reaper's basic ranged attack, without any cast time. On the single target set, Harp is placed on the right D-pad button, but I don't normally use it from here. I use that slot more to keep track of the instant cast buff, then switch over to my AoE cross hotbar set to use Harp from a face button instead. On the AoE set, Harp can take the bottom face button. Since Reaper has one fewer basic AoE attack than single target, there's room for it here, and this is generally where I use it from most of the time. Spinning Scythe and Nightmare Scythe, Reaper's basic area attacks, replace the remaining single target attacks on this set. You'll also notice that I've dropped True North from the D-pad cluster on the AoE set. True North has no effect on any of Reaper's area attacks, so it's not needed there. Leaving it off also helps make the two sets more visually distinct, so it's easier to tell at a glance which one is active. The right trigger is where things start to get more interesting, because this is where I place the higher level attacks. Since Reaper's single target and AoE attacks aren't symmetrical, the placements are similar but not mirrored across the sets. The approach is to put the most frequently used actions, including the global cooldown attacks, on the face buttons, with related off-global attacks going on the D-pad cluster. On the single target set, Soul Slice, Gallows, and Gibbet are the global cooldown attacks taking those face buttons. Bloodstock, Gluttony, and Enshroud are the related off-global actions that feed into the advanced attack combo. On the AoE set, things get condensed a little. Soul Scythe and Grim Swath are direct replacements for their single target counterparts, so they take the same slots. Gallows and Gibbet are replaced by a single AoE attack, Guillotine, which takes the bottom face button. That frees up a face button on the AoE set, which Gluttony then moves into. I want to call out that on the single target set, Gallows and Gibbet are placed intentionally. Gallows does more damage when attacking from a target's rear, and Gibbet does more damage from the flank, so they're placed on the bottom and side face buttons to help me remember those positional properties. At higher levels, you'll spend more time in this advanced attack sequence, so having a comfortable and intuitive layout here really matters. That said, there's flexibility to adjust the exact button placements if you have a preference for a specific face button. Let's move up to the double cross hotbar. Arm's Length takes a D-pad slot on the right trigger, which matches all my other layouts. It has a lengthy cooldown, and while it's an important skill, other actions take priority for face buttons. The left face button is where I placed Shadow of Death, which swaps with its area attack variant Whirl of Death on the AoE set. Both of these are core global cooldown attacks, but they don't need to be used as frequently, usually just a couple of times per encounter, which is why they live on the double cross hotbar. The remaining face buttons go to Reaper's more specialized and less frequently used actions. Soul is interesting in that it's ideally primed outside of battle and then unleashed once in an encounter. Both of these can be done instantly, so a face button is appropriate. Plentiful Harvest is gated by charges of Immortal Sacrifice, which take a while to build up, so it can't be used all that often. When it is used, it's instant, which is why face button on the double cross hotbar feels right. Comunio takes the final face button. Even though it has a cast time that requires Reaper to stand still, after level 100 it can morph into its finisher, Perfectio, which is instant. That's why it gets a face button, and since it's used less frequently than Reaper's other attacks, the double cross hotbar is the right home for it. Let's wrap up the double cross hotbar with the left trigger, which is where I've placed Reaper's defensive and party buff actions. The DPS roll actions Second Wind and Feint take their usual face button placements, which help with muscle memory and lets me use them while moving. Arcane Crest grants Reaper a shield and provides additional benefits to the party at higher levels. It takes the bottom face button, matching similar skills and my other job layouts. Finally, Arcane Circle takes the last spot for similar reasons. It has a long cooldown, so the double cross hotbar feels appropriate. On one half of my extended cross hotbar, I keep actions that are common across all of my jobs. Limit Break, Target Lock On, and my focus targeting macros. The extended cross hotbar can be configured in character configuration settings. Finally, Sprint and Assist targeting are assigned to L3 and R3 via macros 98 and 99, which can be set up in system settings. I prefer assist targeting on R3 because I find it especially helpful when playing a healer, and I like having that consistency across all jobs. Even with DPS jobs where I use it less, it's still handy when I want to focus my attacks on the same target as another party member, usually the tank. So that's my Reaper controller layout. With all of its morphing actions and effects to keep track of, it can be tricky to master, but I think that's exactly what makes it fun and satisfying. Before I close out the video, I'll run through an example combat rotation. I'm not going for perfect damage output here. The goal is just to show the flow of the layout in a typical battle. Thanks for watching. If this was helpful, a thumbs up on your way out is always appreciated. I'm taking a little break from Final Fantasy to play some other games, but that gives you time to drop a comment below to let me know which job you'd like to see covered next. Hope to see you in the next one.